Okay, we're going to work on 1, 3, 5, and 7 as examples of solving for a missing side. Now you want to make sure that you're rounding to the nearest tenth at the end, but you shouldn't even be touching your calculator until the very, very last step. Hopefully you wrote my directions down from the previous slide so that you can follow along. The first thing we need to do is locate where our theta is. And our theta is 72 degrees. It's given to us on the inside of the triangle, so we don't have to label it any other way because we're going to look right from there. We need to label our sides, hypotenuse, then adjacent, then opposite. So my hypotenuse is across from the right angle, so my hypotenuse is the x. The adjacent is between my theta and my right angle, so that's my adjacent. And the opposite is across from my theta, so that's going to be over here. Now, the next step is pretty interesting because what you want to do is you want to circle the sides that have information. And the information could either be a number, like 6, or a missing side, x, like here. And what this does is this helps us decide whether we're using SO, CA, or TOA. So up top, I'm just going to write SO, CA, TOA to help us remember what function goes with what sides. We have a hypotenuse and an adjacent. So the hypotenuse is h, so it's either going to be one of those, and the adjacent is an a, so it's going to be cosine. So when you go to write your ratio for this, what you need to remember is you're going to write cosine theta equals adjacent over hypotenuse. Like this is the template that you're going to follow. Okay, so this is the template, and then you're going to fill in your theta and your two side lengths. So my theta is 72 degrees. That's going to go into this spot right here after the function. The adjacent side I labeled was 6, and the hypotenuse side that I labeled was x. This is the setup piece. So again, we label, we circle the ones with information. I didn't circle the opposite because it's naked. It doesn't have anything on that side at all. So you didn't use that. So we decided that adjacent and hypotenuse, that would be the one with the a and the h. So we're using the cosine function. Write down your template and then fill it in. Don't forget to put your degrees in where the theta spot goes. From here, we switch into solving mode. And solving mode is to cross multiply. So I'm going to put this over 1. And then I'm going to do 1 times 6 and x times sine 72. But I'm not actually going to calculate it. I'm just going to write it. So 1 times 6 is 6. And cosine 72 times x is cosine 72x. And what we're going to do is we're going to get x by itself by dividing both sides by the cosine of 72. These cancel. You get x by itself, and now it's time to pull out the calculator. So we didn't need a calculator all before this. All we're doing is cross multiplying to figure out what goes what, and then we're going to isolate the x and divide by whatever is with it. So it's time for me to solve this. I have my calculator right here. When I turn it on, you're going to notice that my calculator says DEG, which tells me I'm in degree mode. Every scientific calculator has different modes. And if you're not in degree mode, if it doesn't say DEG or just D, then you need to find where your button is that changes the modes. Mine's right here. So if I hit degree, it'll tell me I want radians or gradients, but I want degree mode. So now all I have to do is literally type this in. So I'm typing in 6 divided by, and then I'm going to do cosine 72. Cosine button, 72. Make sure you close the parentheses here. So I'm doing 6 divided by cosine 72. I'm going to hit enter. When I do, I'm going to get a nasty, nasty decimal because that's what calculators give me with trig 99% of the time. Now this one says to round to the nearest tenth. So I need to go one place after the decimal. So 2 places tells me to stay, not the bump. So this is going to be 19.4. And there's your answer for number 1. I'm going to clear this out, and we're going to move to number 3. Number 3, we found our hypotenuse and our adjacent. all from this theta right here and the right angle box here. So the first thing I want to do is notice that 24 degrees is my new theta, and my hypotenuse across from the right angle is empty. It's blank. That's good to know. Adjacent is between my theta angle and my right angle, so that's 12. And my across from my theta is my opposite. I'm going to circle the stuff that has information. So this one has a number 12, and this one has an X. I am not circling the hypotenuse because it doesn't have anything on it. Then I have to think about what function I would use for opposite and opposite and adjacent. I don't have a hypotenuse. So which one doesn't have an H? TOA. So that's tangent. So I'm going to set up my tangent function, tangent theta equals opposite over adjacent. This is my template that I would use to fill in. So again, I got tangent because I know that I have an opposite and adjacent side. My hypotenuse doesn't have any information, and this is the only one without a hypotenuse. I'm going to plug in my theta, which is 24 degrees. I'm going to plug in my opposite and my adjacent now. Now it's time for me to solve it. So in solving, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cross multiply. So I'm going to put this over 1. I'm going to cross multiply. I need 1 times x, and I need 12 times the tangent of 24. Now you have to look carefully here. When you go to multiply this, make sure your constant, the one with the plain number, comes out in front. So this should say 12 times tangent 24. You don't want to put the 12 next to the 24 because then it looks like 2,412, and that's not what we want. So now we're into the calculator because we're ready to multiply. And 1 times x is x, so all we have to do is multiply these two together. So I'm going to do 12 times, and then I'm going to hit tangent of 24, and then close my parenthesis and hit enter. When I do, I get this number, but I need to make sure that I go back up and reread. I want to the nearest tenth, so that's 1 decimal place. The 4 tells you to stay, so we're at 5.3. Let's take a look at 5. Moving down the line. For number 5, we have our theta at 49 degrees. So what we're going to do is label our hypotenuse, our adjacent, and our opposite. Circle the 14, circle the x, and we are looking at opposite and adjacent, another tangent function. So write your template down. Tangent theta equals opposite over adjacent. And you're going to plug in your information. So I need tangent of 49 degrees. Opposite side is 14. Adjacent side is x. And from there, you're going to cross multiply. You're going to put this over 1. You're going to multiply 14 times 1. And you're going to multiply x times the tangent of 49. And then to get x by itself, you want to divide. Because the opposite of that multiply is divide. These cancel. And you're left with x equals, and now you're ready to plug it into the calculator. So I'm clearing this out. I do 14 divided by tangent of 49, close your parentheses, hit equals, and rounding to the nearest tenth is 1 place, but that 7 tells that 1 to bump, so this should be 12.2. We got one more of this example, and then I think you guys will be good to go. This one, we are going to label, and when we label, our theta is 63 degrees. Our hypotenuse across from the right angle is x. And then our adjacent is down at the bottom between my 63 and my right angle. That one's empty. No adjacent today. And then this one over here is across from the theta, which is opposite. I'm going to circle my information. So I have a side that has an X and I have a side that has a 16. And now I'm looking for hypotenuse and opposite. So I go back up, hypotenuse and opposite, that's a sine function. So we're going to take our sine and we're going to write our template. Sine theta equals opposite over hypotenuse. Don't forget that we're going to fill in all of these 3 spots. So I'm going to have sine. My theta is 63 degrees. My opposite is 16. My hypotenuse is x. And I know that because I labeled them. See how fast and easy this is? Then we're going to cross multiply and solve. So we're going to put this over 1. I'm going to do 1 times 16 is 16. And I'm going to do x times the sine of 63. And then because I'm getting x by itself, I got to do the opposite of multiply, which is divide. These cancel. I get x equals, and I'm at my calculator. I have to do 16 divided by sine 63. Close your parenthesis and hit equals. And this one is interesting because this is a 0.9, but the 5 tells it to bump, which means that 17.9 is going to bump up to 18.0. Because it says to the nearest tenth, you need the 0.0 there because this is the tenths place. And the 5 bump the 9 up to a 10, and then the 0 and carry the 1, that's where the 18 comes from. So this is your final answer. You should be able to work on the right side of this, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to do number 2 and number 4 as a you try, and then I'll just post the answers and make sure you're good to go.